In the quiet town of Monroeville, Alabama, on April 28, 1926, a girl named Neller Harper Lee was born beneath the shade of long-lived pines and slow southern skies. The town was small, dusty streets, wooden porches, and gossip that floated through the air like cotton lint. Yet from that stillness a storm of words would one day rise. Harper Lee grew up with a notebook heart and a mind sharp as a courtroom gavel. She watched, listened, and remembered everything. Her father, Amasa Coleman Lee, was a lawyer, fair, stern, and deeply principled. And in his office she saw the struggles of ordinary people, the quiet injustices buried beneath Alabama's gentle drawl. As a child she roamed the neighborhoods with a boy named Truman Capote, her neighbor and lifelong friend. Together they invented worlds, spied on the strange, and whispered stories that would one day find their way into books. Lee was a tomboy, unbothered by lace and manners, more comfortable with bare feet and books. The South around her was beautiful and brutal, filled with kindness and cruelty in equal measure. Its contradictions imprinted themselves in her spirit, preparing her for the story that would define her generation. After studying at the University of Alabama, Harper Lee moved to New York City, carrying with her the rhythms of Monroeville, the memory of trial and tragedy, and the unshakable desire to write something true. She worked airline counters by day and wrote by night, building characters out of memory and conscience. In 1957 she finished a manuscript about a small town, a trial, and a man's quiet stand for justice. It would become one of the most powerful novels ever written in America. In 1960, To Kill a Mockingbird was published. The world changed, readers everywhere met Atticus Finch, the moral compass forged from her father's example. Scout, the curious girl who saw the world as it was and as it could be. And Tom Robinson, the innocent man condemned by racism's blind fury. The novel's voice was simple yet piercing. It spoke the truth in the language of childhood, but its echoes were eternal. The courthouse of Macomb became a mirror for America's soul. The book won the Pulitzer Prize in 1961 and became a classic almost overnight. Yet Harper Lee shunned fame. She avoided interviews, refused television, and withdrew from public life. You never really understand a person until you climb into his skin and walk around in it. She had written, and it seemed she preferred to let her words, not her presence, do that walking. Her hometown became a pilgrimage site, and Monroeville's courthouse transformed into a shrine to conscience. Lee's friends and neighbors saw her often, quiet, unassuming, walking to the grocery store or sitting on her porch. But she rarely spoke of Mockingbird. When asked why she never wrote another book, she smiled and said, "I said what I wanted to say." Yet decades later, in 2015, a lost manuscript surfaced. Ghost said a Watchman it was an earlier draft, revealing the evolution of Mockingbird's characters and the complexity of Lee's vision. Controversy surrounded its publication, but for scholars and fans, it was a glimpse into her process, the long road from confusion to clarity, from manuscript to masterpiece. Harper Lee passed away on February 19, 2016, in the same small town where she was born. The world mourned not only an author, but a moral witness. She had held up a mirror to America and asked it to look, not with judgment, but with empathy. Through her story, she taught that courage is quiet, that decency can stand alone, and that justice is not a word, but an act of the heart. Of an Alabama evening, where mockingbirds still sing across courthouse lawns, her words linger like hymn and history. The one thing that doesn't abide by majority rule is a person's conscience. Harper Lee, that changed a nation, who turned the lessons of childhood into the wisdom of ages, remains Alabama's voice of truth, compassion, and memory.